Have you ever made something and had instant seam sorrow, thinking, I wish I had done this or that? One of my favorite things about sewing is that it's both creative and problem solving. You can plan and design exactly what you want from the beginning, but you can also look at something you've already made and think, how can I make this even better? And that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to show you how I'm going to be taking this boring zipper bag I already made, and we're going to turn it into a purse. We'll add a zipper pocket on one side and a zippered pouch pocket on the other side, and add an adjustable strap so that it's fully functional. All that without touching a seam ripper. And in the process, we're going to learn how to add some really cool pockets that you can incorporate into any upcoming sewing project that you may have. Let's start with a zippered welt pocket. Adding a welt or slash style pocket to the side of the bag is a great way to start. Normally, to do a welt pocket, you would start like this with the interfacing on the wrong side of the fabric. But for this example, I'm actually going to fuse the interfacing on the right side of the fabric where I want my pocket opening to be. I'm going to mark here how wide and how tall I want that opening. This outside rectangle is going to be my sew line. Then I'm going to mark the center of this pocket by just folding it in half, and then I'll mark with a pen where the center is, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the bag. I'm just going to easily fold it in half and mark with a pin my center, so now I can line up my two centers and I can adjust this rectangle so that it's exactly where I want my finished opening to be. That looks pretty good right about there. Now I'm going to pin this on the inside of that sewing area, making sure that it's straight. One tip I like to do with this is I make sure that the sharp edge of my pins are tucked in between the fabric. That way, as I'm sewing, I don't accidentally snag my finger. You're going to be pretty rough with this when you start sewing. You'll see that in just a second. So feel free to use a lot of pins and make sure it's very secure. And make sure you tuck all those sharp edges in between the fabric. Okay, so now that it's all secure, I'm going to move it over to my sewing machine so that I can sew these two straight lines. You're going to make sure that the rest of the bag is not underneath as you do this. Make sure that you unzip the bag all the way. You can even turn it a little bit inside out. Don't worry if the whole line isn't straight. Just make sure you have about 1 inch or 2 of clean, flat area to start sewing. Then you can keep readjusting as you go. When you adjust as you're sewing, make sure that the sewing needle is in the down position. Then you can make your adjustments. That way you can be pretty rough with this fabric and it won't move around on you. That needle will hold your sew line in place. So here we can see the first line looks really good. I didn't catch any of the bag accidentally in the stitch line. When you're doing something like this and retroing a sewn project, you're going to want to go slow and keep double checking that everything is sewing the way you want it to be. So now I can remove some of those pins so that it's easier to sew the next line without those in the way. And this is all the sewing you need to do to create the zippered pocket opening. And of course, double check all those lines and make sure they look good and flat and that none of the bag is caught into these two stitch lines. Remove your pins and now we're ready to cut into this bag. I'm going to use this cut line right down the center. If this is your first time doing this kind of pocket, I suggest practicing on scrap fabric first. That way you know you got this technique down before slashing into a finished project like this. Now cut the triangle and cut up as close to that stitch line as you can. And then just repeat that on the other side. Now we can turn the pocket to the inside of the bag and iron this opening so that it's very flat. Okay, there we go. This opening looks really good. Now we're going to add the zipper. I usually use a zipper by the yard product so that I can cut exactly the size zipper I want for these type of bags. I can just line this up and then pin it in place. I like to sew this end first to hold it in place better as I sew the rest of the zipper. Then I sew the top line down, and then I sew the bottom line down. Now make sure the zipper pull is in the center and then sew up that last edge. All right, let's create the pocket. I'm going to bring the fabric back to the outside of the bag and flip it up like this. Then I'm going to sew these two side seams, but I'm going to leave the top open. I'm just going to sew these at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now push the fabric back through the opening and turn the pocket right side out. To finish the top, I'm going to just fold the top around at a 1/4 inch and then top stitch that closed. I'm going to top stitch around the side seams, which will create a French seam inside the pocket to hide those raw edges. So you can see this is a really unique way to do a zipper pocket that looks finished on the inside of the bag. I know that I went a little fast on this technique. If you'd like to watch a more detailed tutorial on how to do this zipper pouch so that you can master welt pockets and zipper pockets, please check out my written description below. I link all these in-depth tutorials there, or you can just watch to the end of this video. On the other side, I want to add my favorite pocket style, a zippered pouch pocket. It's almost like adding a mini bag attached to the outside. To sew the zippered pouch pocket, you'll need a zipper cut to the width that you want the pocket to be, and 2 pieces of fabric. I'm going to fold and iron the edges of the top of both of these pieces of fabric, and then sew them to each side of the zipper, with the right sides of the fabric facing up. I want the zipper to be about 1 inch down from the top fold. So let's set it up this way now, and then I can trim the pocket to exactly the size I want. Now fold it with the right sides together. Make sure your zipper is unzipped a bit for this. And then sew the pocket at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now turn it right side out and push those corners out. I can set this up exactly where I want it to be on my bag. You're going to pin this in place, and again, make sure you tuck the sharp edge of the pins in between the fabric so that you don't get snagged by them as you sew. I'm going to sew this in a U shape. And again, you're going to make sure the rest of the bag is not in the way as you sew this. Make sure there's nothing underneath. As you move and readjust while you're sewing, always stop with the needle down so that as you move it around, you don't lose your straight stitch line. And again, this is an advanced technique. If you can sew a straight line, you can do this, but you want to practice sewing this type of pocket on a scrap fabric so that you get used to top stitching. You want to be very comfortable with this technique. Now that this is sewn, I can remove my pins. And so you can see how cool this looks. I have a zippered pocket and I have this hidden pocket here as well. So you can see why this is one of my favorite pockets to do. And finally, let's make it a purse by adding an adjustable strap. You'll need about 54 inches of strap material. I used nylon webbing. You're going to want to get 2 D-rings, 2 swivel hooks, and a slide. I'll sew the hardware to the strap so that it can be lengthened or shortened, so that I can use this as a crossbody bag or a regular purse length. So let's start with the side tabs. I want my side tabs to be 1 inch wide and about 2 inches tall. So I cut this fabric and I cut fusible interfacing in a 1 inch square, and I fused it to the top and bottom. Now all I have to do is tuck the fabric corners in like this, and then the top over, and iron that flat on both sides. Then you can iron the sides in so that the finished piece looks like this. Now I can easily fold this over and top stitch it down. So let's add the D-ring and fold it together. I want this to stay in place when I attach it to my bag. There's a couple different ways I could do this. I can use fusible webbing, but it's not very strong and it's hard to iron it in exactly the spot I want it. So instead, I'm going to use this peel and stick permanent fabric adhesive. I only need a little small square in the center to hold it in place. Get it exactly how you want it to go together and then press it together. Then use a second piece about that same size on the back, and then use that to place it exactly where you want it on your purse. Now, without any pins, I can sew this in place. And again, you're going to want to make sure you have your pouch unzipped and that nothing is underneath as you sew these tabs down. And now repeat that same process on the other side. And so here's what it looks like when it's all done. I wanted you to see what the stitching looks like on the inside, but I would suggest changing your bobbin thread to match the lining of the inside of your bag. That way the stitching won't be so noticeable for your finished project. Now let's make the adjustable strap. If you're using nylon webbing like I did here, you can use a lighter to lightly melt the edges so that it doesn't fray. So first, you're going to slide on one of the swivel hooks. Now we're going to guide the strap up through the center on one side of the slide and then back down the other side. Now I'm going to stitch this as close to the slide edge as I can. Now take the other edge of the strap, making sure the strap isn't twisted, and go up through the right side of the slide and then back down over that center slide. Now you can pull it through so that you have just a couple of inches folded on this side. And you can see you have one swivel hook attached on this side. Then let's do the other side by pulling the webbing through the other swivel hook, and now we're going to stitch that in place. And there you have it, an adjustable shoulder strap that can go from crossbody length to a regular purse strap with just the pull of a slide. And look at that, this little zipper bag has a whole new life. Crossbody, shoulder bag, or even just a grab-and-go purse. So yes, this would be better if I planned it all out and sewed all my pockets to my panels before assembling this zippered bag. But this was a great opportunity to show you that you can add and make adjustments to finished projects and keep that creativity going. This zipper bag started as something simple, and now it's a fully functional purse with 2 different kinds of pockets and an adjustable strap. And maybe this will give you ideas on creating a different purse start to finish. To me, this is the best part of sewing. You don't just follow a pattern. You get to think creatively and solve problems. Maybe you just made something and realize it's missing a feature, or maybe you just want to upgrade it. You can use the same skills to adapt, retrofit, and design exactly what you need. So next time you look at something you've sewn, ask yourself, what else could this be?